Have you ever found yourself in a situation where everything seems normal, but there's something in the air that makes you uneasy, like an invisible presence is surrounding you? Well, imagine it's a cold, quiet night and you're driving home after a long day at work. The radio is playing softly, with music that you barely hear, because your mind is a little distant, tired. The road is familiar, peaceful, and you've driven it hundreds of times before without worrying. The road is surrounded by tall trees that seem to form a tunnel of darkness over the asphalt, and the headlights only illuminate a few meters ahead. You like that feeling of calm, the soft sound of tires on asphalt. But suddenly you notice something that distracts you from the road. In the rearview mirror, you see a pair of headlights appearing in the distance. At first you don't care much. It's just another car, you think. Someone going home, like me. But as you drive on, you start to notice that car getting closer and closer, as if it's deliberately getting closer. Maybe he's in a hurry, you think. Or maybe I'm driving too slow. So, to be nice, you speed up a little, thinking he's going to pass you. But he doesn't. He stays glued to your back, the headlights illuminating the inside of your car, creating strange shadows on the dashboard. That uneasy feeling starts to grow. You don't want to seem paranoid, but why doesn't he get over it? Why is he still there, so close? You decide to turn left, taking a less traveled exit, just to see what happens. But, to your surprise, the car makes the same turn. Now your heart starts to beat faster. It's okay, maybe he's just going in the same direction as me, you try to convince yourself. But the tension is building. Every turn you take, every change of direction, the car follows you. Those bright lights don't come out of the rearview mirror, as if they were a pair of eyes watching you, chasing you in the dark of the night. You find yourself gripping the steering wheel tighter, sweat beginning to run down your forehead, even though it's cold outside. Am I being followed? The question echoes in your mind, but you don't want to believe it. It seems like something out of a movie, but the reality is there, in the rearview mirror. To test it out, you decide to take an exit that leads to an even more isolated road, a path that would only be used by those who know the region well. The car is following you. Now, fear begins to take hold of her. What if? What if it's not a coincidence? What if that car really is behind you? But why? What does it want? You start to imagine 1,000 things. Has someone been watching you for days, waiting for the right moment to attack? Have you been the target of a horrible plan? Your hands are shaking. The sound of your heartbeat seems so loud that you can barely hear the music on the radio. The road ahead of you begins to seem endless, and all you want is to get home. Lock yourself in and forget about the night. But you can't stop. Not while that car is there. So, with no other options, you decide to do something you never thought you would do. In a quick maneuver, you speed up and turn sharply to the right, turning off the main road and onto a small dirt road, almost hidden by trees. It's a road you know well, but there's no way for that car to know that. Your car's wheels skid a bit on the loose dirt, but you stay in control. What happens next is what you least expected. You look back, expecting to see those headlights closing in behind you once again. But nothing. The car didn't follow you. He just disappeared. You slow down, confused. Where did he go? How did he disappear so quickly? The dirt road is long and has no side exits, so where could he have gone? You stop the car, your heart still pounding, and you stay silent for a moment, just listening to your own breathing and the sound of crickets in the surrounding forest. What was supposed to be a simple trip home turned into a nightmare. But now, everything is silent. Just fear. It remains with you, stuck to your skin, in your mind. Even though the car is gone, the feeling that something is wrong, that something is chasing you, doesn't go away. You force yourself back on the road, driving as fast as you can to get home. Finally, you reach the safety of your home. You lock the doors, turn off the lights, and try to forget what happened. But as you lie in bed, trying to calm down, one thought won't leave you alone. What if that car hadn't left? What if it was waiting, hiding, in the shadows, watching, waiting for the right moment to appear again? I hope you liked the story, because the second story is even more chilling. Just don't forget to see if you're already subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any terrifying stories. Have you ever felt this? That strange feeling that something is not right, even when everything around you seems absolutely normal. It's like the air itself is laden with an invisible weight, a presence that you can't see, but that is there, watching you. And that feeling is especially strong when you are alone, isn't it? Imagine now that you decide to hit the road, without a very clear destination, just driving to escape the routine and find some peace. At first everything seems perfect. The road is empty and the sun slowly sets on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. But as the shadows begin to lengthen, you start to feel a slight discomfort. It is almost imperceptible at first, as if a little voice is whispering in your mind, warning you of something you cannot identify. As the night progresses, the once friendly road begins to transform into something different. The asphalt, once smooth and welcoming, now seems like a dark corridor that leads you into the unknown. The signs on the side of the road that used to be comforting reminders that you're on the right path now seem like markers on a road that takes you further and further away from everything familiar. And then you start to notice something. The small towns you pass through seem strange. They have that feeling of being stuck in time, like they're sets from an old movie, where nothing changes and no one really lives there. The few people you meet at gas stations or roadside cafes look at you strangely, as if they know something you don't, as if you don't belong there. And then the worst comes. The road starts to change. It gets narrower and narrower, winding, and the trees around you seem to get closer to you, as if they want to swallow you up. The silence, which was once comforting, now feels like an oppressive presence, almost as if it's suffocating you. And with each turn, the feeling of being watched only increases. You start to notice strange things. A car that seems to always be in your rearview mirror, but when you try to look again, it disappears. A figure on the side of the road that, when you pass, seems to turn its head to follow you with its gaze. And with each passing mile, the certainty that something is terribly wrong only grows. Until you reach a small motel, one of those that look like something out of an old movie. The neon sign flickers erratically, as if it's about to turn off completely. But you're tired, and the idea of continuing to drive down the dark, deserted road fills you with dread. So you decide to stay. The receptionist is an older man, with eyes that look tired, but he looks at you in a way that makes you uncomfortable. He gives you the key to room 13 and a shiver runs down your spine. But you try to ignore it, convincing yourself that it's just superstition. The room is simple but clean. The silence is absolute, except for the occasional sound of footsteps in the hallway, which seem to stop right in front of your door before moving away again. You try to sleep, but the feeling of being watched is unbearable. You toss and turn in bed, trying to find a comfortable position, but something won't leave you alone. And then, in the middle of the night, you hear it. At first, it's a light whisper, like someone is talking right next to your ear. But when you sit up in bed, the sound disappears. You stand up and walk over to the window. Outside, the road is deserted, but something is wrong. The trees, once so familiar, now look like dark, menacing shapes. And then you see, across the road, a figure standing. It's too dark to see clearly, but you know she's watching you. You try to turn on the light, but the switch doesn't work. Panic begins to set in. The figure outside moves slowly toward you, crossing the street with slow, deliberate steps. You step back, your heart pounding in your chest, but you have nowhere to go. The bedroom door seems far away, and you're not sure you can reach it before the figure reaches you. And then, the sound of footsteps in the hallway. They start slowly, but soon build to a frantic rush, as if someone is coming straight for your room. You hold on to the door handle, trying to keep it closed, but the footsteps stop just outside. And then, the sound of labored breathing. Someone is there, on the other side of the door, and you smell something rotten, like decay. Suddenly, the sound stops and all you can hear is your own heart beating wildly. The figure outside the window is gone, but the fear remains, heavy as lead. You spend the rest of the night awake, not moving, not even breathing properly, waiting for something you can't see but know is there. When the sun finally comes up, you leave the room in a hurry, not even looking back. The receptionist doesn't even seem to notice your haste and you rush back to the road. But as you drive, the feeling of being watched doesn't go away. Every reflection in the rearview mirror, every shadow on the side of the road, seems to follow you, to haunt you. You speed up, desperate to leave it all behind. But no matter how far you drive, the road seems to stretch on endlessly, with no end in sight. And deep down you know you'll never be the same again. Something about that road, in that place, left a mark on you in a way you can never forget. And so, what started as a simple journey turned into a nightmare you can never leave behind. The road is still there, waiting for the next unsuspecting traveler to cross that invisible line, unaware that they are entering a world where the rules of reality do not apply, where fear is the only certainty. And you? Well, you can only hope that wherever you are now, the road will never be the same again. Se cruce en tu camino. I hope you liked the story, because the third story is even more chilling. Just don't forget to see if you're already subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any terrifying stories. I hope you liked the story. It was an autumn night, one of those where the sky turns orange and pink, and the sun slowly moves away from the horizon. You were driving along a deserted road, surrounded by tall trees whose leaves were beginning to change color. The sound of tires on the asphalt was the only thing that broke the absolute silence of the approaching night. As you drove, you noticed that the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, with no signs of life for miles. It was one of those routes where the radio barely picked up a signal, and the cities were so far away that not even the lights of the houses could be seen in the distance. You were alone, but everything seemed to be under control. The car was working perfectly and you had already gotten used to the route. But suddenly something caught your attention. On the right side of the road, a man appeared out of nowhere, waving desperately. He was standing next to a car, a simple vehicle, one of those you see every day. His face looked tired and his clothes were disheveled, as if he had been through something very stressful. He gestured with some urgency, pointing at the car and then at you, pleading for help. Your first instinct was to hit the brake and stop the car. After all, he seemed to be in trouble and helping someone on the road never seemed dangerous to you. But as his fingers neared the gear shift, an unexpected chill ran down your spine. It was a strange feeling, almost as if the air around you had become heavier, denser. Something was wrong, but you didn't know exactly what. The man continued to wave, more desperate now, almost panicked. Your heart raced and that feeling of alertness grew inside you. It was as if something was telling you not to trust this situation, to keep your distance. Still, the rational part of your mind fought against this feeling, telling you that he was just a man who needed help. You decided not to get out of the car right away. Instead, you rolled down the window just enough to hear what he had to say. "Hey, my car broke down," he said in a broken voice. "I need help fixing the engine. I don't have a signal here to call anyone." Something about his tone seemed forced. It was hard to explain, but the way he spoke, as if he was rehearsing the words, made you doubt even more. You looked closer at his car. It was an older model, but it didn't seem to be broken. There was no smoke coming out of the hood or any other visible sign of trouble. That's when something really strange happened. Through the rearview mirror, you could see movement in the trees, as if someone or something was hiding there, watching. Your instincts went on high alert. Without taking your eyes off the man, you pretended to adjust the rearview mirror to get a better look at him. There, between the shadows of the trees, you noticed a silhouette moving, silent and stealthy, as if lurking. Your heart was beating faster. Maybe the man wasn't alone. Maybe this was a trap. You've heard of stories like this, where people stopped to help someone along the road and ended up in dangerous situations. But now you were living this story, and the decision you made could mean the difference between moving forward or getting into serious trouble. The man, noticing your hesitation, began to approach the car, almost knocking on the window. "Please, I just need some quick help," he said, a smile not reaching his eyes. "It won't be long." That was when you saw him. Right behind his car, almost hidden in the growing darkness, was another man. He was lowered, as if trying to go unnoticed, but you managed to spot him in time. It all made sense now. The feeling of unease, the chill running down your spine, the shadows between the trees. It was an ambush, and you were about to walk into it. Without a second thought, you sped up the car. The man beside you jumped back in surprise, but you didn't look back. His attention was on the road ahead of him, and the only thing on his mind was getting out of there as quickly as possible. As he drove away, you glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. The two men were standing, watching your car disappear down the road. They didn't run after you or try to follow you. They just stood there, like shadows, waiting for the next unsuspecting victim to pass by. You drove on, your heart still racing, the weight of what almost happened still hanging over you. The road seemed darker now, longer, and the once peaceful silence was now oppressive. You knew you had escaped something very bad, and that strange feeling, that chill running down your spine, was what saved your life that night. When you finally reached a city, the bright street lights and the movement of people brought you back to reality. But deep down you knew you would never look at a deserted road the same way again. And that feeling, well, now you knew it was a warning sign, and next time you would listen even more intently. And it is so, in normal situations, but with that subtle detail, that the unknown can approach without anyone noticing. After all, danger doesn't always come with a scary face. Sometimes it hides behind a cry for help. Tell me which story made your hair stand on end? Tell me which one you liked the most? Because in the next video the story is even more chilling. Just don't forget to see if you're already subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any terrifying stories.